crows. Welcome to the stream. Those watching online, offline, wherever you are, I hope you find yourself aligned with, whatever it is that your journey needs, whatever it is that is medicine to you. I hope that your path aligns with beautiful, sacred perspective, things that allow you to just see through the distortions and illusions of this community, to align yourself with, that which, for whatever that looks like for you, is ritualistic, is honoring the self. Friend, it's nice to see you. Got the TDWA. Yeah, bro. Dude, that's awesome. That's fucking awesome. Congratulations, man. Congratulations. Like, that's tight. It is nice to be back, in truth. It's nice to be here. It's been a solid few days, I would say, at least, since I've been on this portal. But fortunately, intentionally so, I feel like there's been a lot that has been present in my life, a lot that I've been desiring to be present for consistently, and honestly, a lot of growth, a lot of truth that's been flowing through, but I feel very grateful, grateful to sort of see and be where I'm at. And truthfully, weirdly enough, within all the unraveling, all the intense sort of shifts and transitions that I've seen in my life, the one very powerful light, I would say, in my life has been basically busking, which is, maybe not too much of a surprise if you've ever entered that portal, but, or if you've seen stuff you've been carrying along with what I've been doing with my busking stuff. But life has been presenting, so many interesting obstacles that I've sort of had to meet head on, but innately, mostly internal obstacles, energetic obstacles, psychological obstacles, spiritual obstacles. But in the deepest sense, for whatever reason, which has not always been the case, strangely enough, but busking has been like a rooting. It's been like a deep portal of perspective and inspiration where, wherever I go, I'll just I'll hop around random places or go to beaches and kind of just you know what? I'm just gonna switch off from the world and just slip into a performance guitar flow. And, I'll have beautiful people, beautiful souls kind of just stop by for whatever reason, or experience, listen, and just give me a beautiful affirmation. Even in my darkest hours, I feel like it makes me really feel received by the community, my community, in the real world, of course. And that feels interesting. It really paints an interesting perspective. And in all honesty, I feel very proud of what I've been establishing. I feel very, even just in the sense of like showing up and having this, guitar, pan flute performance act, being able to just be like, wow, this is actually unreal to see myself be in this phase of my existence. Even if things are kind of falling apart, in certain domains, I'm happy to see that there is one dimension of my experience. And an extension, I guess my YouTube has held that same stance where I feel grateful to be like, whoa, objectively, I'm very happy, even when I'm taking breaks to, ground myself and root myself and understand myself spiritually and psychologically. I'm like, whoa, what a beautiful thing is emerging. Also, I printed out a Ko-Fi card. I mean, this is more for when I'm busking in the real world, but I thought to myself, I was, you know what? Let's never have to talk about Ko-Fi. Let's just subliminally, whoa. Got to sort of adjust our audio a bit. It's a bit, doing a bit of feedback. But yeah, I got a Ko-Fi card. So it's like, or Ko-Fi, however they pronounce it. So here's your a little reminder. I don't even know if that works. Let me know if this works. Don't have to donate to it, but I'm just curious. If you scan this through your phone, I imagine it works. I'm pretty sure that's how barcodes work, but that's a thing. another thing I really want to experiment with. I don't know how this will work, but I've been sort of trying to lean into using the audio dimension here, of course. So let's give this a little shot. For whatever reason, I find it's like doing it on some strange angle seems to be the best for the microphone. I don't know why, but that's just how it seems to work. Okay, where can I place my card? I don't know. We'll find a spot. But yeah, I hope you guys, sort of caveats, an extension of my, what's been flowing through for me. I hope you guys, sort of as I've titled, are noticing yourself, lean into that which gives you community and support, really just in a fundamental way, if I'm being clear cut, as an extension of my own reality. I hope you guys, are penetrating resistance, your own resistance, and surrendering to the love, the warmth, the community, the support that the universe and the world and the people around you in your life want to offer you. It's been a major, major theme for me. I've honestly been processing a lot of complex emotions and grief over the last month or so, or more like 3 weeks. And I've noticed that, my kind of core wound, my core capacity to kind of shut myself off from the world, in a way that kind of seems very natural to me, and not understand that people want to help, people want to support, you want people fundamentally, people are, we're in it together, especially when we're talking about people that love and care about you, they desire to help you to realize that we're not so split off. We as humans thrive when we can unify and not split ourselves off from those that maybe want to help and support and offer us love, especially when we are going through something challenging. Anyways, just some words that have been resonant. I actually, strangely enough, this is a random parallel. I don't know if you guys are psychonauts like myself, but I've been very fortunate to, weirdly enough, okay, this is kind of what I want to say before I dive deep into the music. I am extraordinarily grateful for, well, this one beach that I go to. This is a very strange thing that may make sense to you guys, maybe not, but for me, I've noticed this reoccurring theme that there is a portal, let's call it, that I go to. There's many portals everywhere, parkour gyms are portals, ecstatic dances and raves are portals, but there's a beach that I would consider a powerful portal. And basically what I'm saying is I went to the beach 2 days ago. I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to drop everything. I'm having a crazy week. Life's been chaotic. And, it was a casual sort of thought. I'm like, I'm going to go to the beach. I'm going to go to Wreck Beach. The beach that I sometimes stream at, right? But this day was not like any other day. I swear. I, was kind of feeling very suppressed, very, processing grief, maybe a bit grief-stricken, a bit unmotivated, sitting with a lot of dense energy. And I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm dropping everything, going to the beach. And when I made this decision to go to the beach, I cannot even convey the unparalleled amount of alignments that all just stacked up and spiraled around my day the second that I left my door. Strangely enough, it was like I immediately, keep up the great work, King. Hey, cheers. Thank you, brother Thomas. Thank you, brother. You keep up the great work too, friend. Can I play Wonderwall? Probably, but no. I won't. I mean, no offense to Wonderwall. It's a beautiful song, but yeah, we're not a cover artist. But the idea is that I went to this beach, and what happened was, on the way to this beach, I immediately, had this feeling of being, you know what, I'm gonna stop by a dispensary. But I was like, you know what, because I feel like I need to purchase some mushrooms. I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna do this on the way there. I bought some juice, was on my way to the beach. And basically, I realized, I was like, I'm going to look around to see if there's dispensaries around me. And I figured out that there was this one dispensary that was actually in walking distance from where I was that I'd never gone to because it was relatively new. And if you're familiar with Canada, Canada's kind of interesting because they have legal magic mushroom dispensaries. Little did I know, I went to this dispensary, walked up to it, and there was this like very gorgeous, radiant woman there that was just like, just there. She was the dispensary worker. And she was like, hello, what do you need? And I'm like, I need some mushrooms. What kind of mushrooms do you have? I was like, what kind of DMT do you have? What kind of psychedelics do you have on the menu? And she's like, oh, here, I have a giant menu. And she hands me this giant, beautifully curated menu. And I was like, okay. I was like, wow, I'm going through all these different shroom strains. And she was like, and this is what we have for DMT. We've got actually various types here. We have, and she showed me a menu, which I didn't know they do this, but they had every type of DMT you could ever imagine. Like they had NN DMT, of course, as they always do. They had NM Changa DMT, which is basically the plant form, which I don't know if you ever heard me talk about Changa. I revere it, and it's infamously difficult to find. But for whatever reason, this dispensary told me that they have a supplier and they have this Changa, and it was like beautiful, like perfectly, I guess, formulated Changa. And then they had 5-MeO DMT, 5-MeO Changa, 5-MeO, all these different types, like oral DMT, these other plant types of DMT. And I was just astonished. I was like, whoa, this is mind-blowing. And I was like, I came here because I didn't know what exactly to expect. So immediately I was like, I've been looking for Changa for literally like a year. I was like, no friends, no sources, no place I was asking around, where can I find Changa? And weirdly enough, this dispensary had it. I was like, this is bizarre. So immediately I was like lit up with like, ecstasy. I was like, wow, well, this is cool. And then I purchased this Changa, and she recommended me this beautiful strain. I forget what it was called, but it was this like weird, like albino strain of mushrooms. And then I bought, some grams of these mushrooms. And then from then on, I was like, okay. I was like, this is an interesting interaction. She was very kind, purchased these things, went on my day. And then from there, I immediately was just like, okay, I'm astonished that Changa is something that's in my possession, because I really like revere this compound. I don't know, well, I could go off on that forever. We won't right now, but reality is, found Changa, feel blessed that that is in my possession. But beyond that, then I came to the stand where there was a fellow sitting outside handing out books. Like he was like from India, and he was from like a shrine, and he was telling me, he's like, yeah, like giving out free books that our shrine is printed, that, teach people how to meditate, do yoga. And he just basically goes to me, we start talking. He's like a YouTuber, he's like a dude my age, and he gives me all these free books. They're by donation, and they're all these like ancient sort of Vedic Indian textbooks that have like talk about meditation, and talk about like how the Beatles learned meditation and how it changed their life, and how they learned chanting, all these trippy books. So I was like, okay, thank you for these books, and thank you for your energy. And we talked for a bit, and we kind of like talked about my sound healing experience and blah blah blah, and then eventually we parted ways. And I was like, beautiful, so your aura is healing, thank you. Why thank you? Gara ritual garange, Godspeed, God bless, bruv. Magic. Thank you, brother. Thank you, brothers and sisters. But anyways, I'll summarize this quickly, that I got these medicines. To my surprise, that already made my day. Was blessed by this one random fellow who was from a shrine, who was just handing out literature about meditation and yoga, which weirdly enough, I was extraordinarily attracted to meditation this day, because I was actually at a rave the day before. And when I was giving this one guy a light show, really chill, like Indian dude, who I guess was new to raves, he was telling me all about how he philosophically had connected to meditation, how it changed his life, how, we inherently have nothing to do in this existence. And we need to surrender to doing nothing and being at peace with that. It was a very interesting interaction. I was like, wow, this guy's like on a deep level. He was like sober, but he was like really in a beautiful place. And I remember I was like really needed to hear that. I was like, yes, thank you, brother, for sharing. Like, what a blessing. And anyways, so I got these books, and then I went to the beach. And then from the beach, this is where it just became, a beautiful unraveling, where I met, the merchants that were on the merchants' beaches, got my ritual incense, got some new pants, played some pan flute, played some music, did some cold plunges. And then towards the end of the endeavor, I set up my whole busking setup, the guitar setup I have here, and was just like, all right, I'm going to play some music. I don't feel like busking that day, but I was like, I'm going to play some music for my friends, the merchants, the beachgoers of Rec. I was like, I just want to play for these people. I want to just play them some music. As they're, carrying on their way and watching the sunset, I'm like, I'm going to play and do my full setup and go in performance mode. And that's what I did, I guess. For like 40 minutes or an hour, I just played, did some stuff, did some violin stuff, and was like, all right, this is nice. And didn't expect, people to really pay attention, maybe some. But fortunately, a lot of people were pretty stoked. Like people that I knew, friends, like, whoa, that's really cool. You're like really owning it. You're in a flow state. And I'm like, thank you. And that was kind of cool because I was going through a crazy day. I was grieving a lot. I was in my own bubble. I was not feeling that great or even social. But yeah, I was met with some nice energy. And then this older gentleman walks up to me, giant white beard, really cool guy, had like really trippy psychedelic clothing, was with this one chick. And she was also like, older, and they're both just, really just seemed like almost like Woodstock era people. Like they were very like Woodstocky. They were very chill. And they walk up to me and they were just like so kind. Like they're offering almost this like father, mother energy that they were just like so supportive and happy to see me play. And they also had guitars. They were musicians and artists. And they were just like, listening to me. And the one guy records me when I wasn't paying attention. I'm like playing all this guitar, records the best moment he could have when I wasn't paying attention to me playing guitar. And then he's like, yeah, love what you're doing. You're doing an extraordinary job. I'd love to follow you on your Instagram or YouTube. I gave him my YouTube and was like, all right, thank you. And that felt like a powerful blessing in itself. So all I'm simply saying is, I think summary is there are places, there are paths of alignment that almost like invariably, if you are, really open to it, there is almost like sacred places and rituals and ways to connect to sacred things. Maybe not every day, maybe not all the time, but they're there. That really just want to offer themselves, almost like a level of presence to you, to be like, oh, here I am going through my day. I didn't expect anything, but suddenly I have this sacred medicine that I've been desiring for a while. I have all these ritual incense, I have these sacred trinkets from my favorite merchant that goes from Nepal. I meet these beautiful people that are from the beaches there. I got this one guy blessing me, giving me all these like literature for meditation. Nothing that I would have expected at all. But I just was like, I'm going to this beach because I want to just sit by the water. And all these things kind of, all these very like quintessential spiritual interactions and things that I really did not expect all just hit me like waves. And I felt very grateful. And I do feel very grateful for that. So anyways, long story short, as of yesterday, I did these mushrooms. Now that's a story for another day. I did these mushrooms that this beautiful soul at the dispensary recommended to me. Hands down, the most extraordinary, harmonious, fortuitous mushroom experience I've ever had in a long time. They were very strong. Like, granted, they were like white with like big blue blotches. Like, they were clearly full of psilocybin. And yeah, I could talk forever, but I would love to just, well, not actually, but I mean, there's a lot flowing through my energy body, but I would love to just be present with the music for you, my friends. Because that's what we're here for. Oh, there it goes. Let me know if this works. Don't have to donate to it. I'm just curious. I'll probably scan it after this stream on my own thing to see if that actually does. That's probably the best way to do this. But man, all I can say is yes. The world around you, sometimes there's certain places, locations, that was kind of my core point, is like, I hope you guys find your own rec beach. You find your own beach that is somehow a portal of alignment, that somehow, has such a way to let the universe offer you the blessings that I really, desire for you guys to have. Yeah. What do I think of Jesus? I mean, it's pretty clear. You're new to here, that's chill. I don't desire to promote religious ideology, like I really don't. I think, what do I think of spirit, creator, source consciousness? I love. I love it. I feel it's pure, it's beautiful. Spiritual context is extraordinary. Jesus, I think, I don't know, unfortunately, religious icons and ideologies, they get lost in translation 90% of the time. Like, I don't know. I mean, I could, in the real world, if it was the real world, I would love to have a deep philosophical and spiritual discussion about people like, Jesus and Christianity. But rule of thumb is this is a YouTube channel that I don't desire to promote too much Christian, ideology, conceptualization, just as a rule of thumb. Like, I respect people that have, their own religious beliefs. I think it's beautiful. And long story short, the summary maybe that extends off that, if you find Christian or religious ideology is a modality that lets you connect to spirit, be a better person, be happier, more compassionate, more open-hearted, basically instills healthy values within you, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. I think that's beautiful. But if that is something that does not do that, if that's something that promotes the opposite even, then I think you need to challenge that with the utmost critical, critical criticism. You gotta question your beliefs. You gotta challenge your beliefs. Doesn't matter if it's, the most holy being per se in the world. I think it's important to integrate these spiritual contexts, not just, try to, I don't know, like conceptualize or philosophize or romanticize them. That's a whole nother thing, right? I get blessings. All right, gods. Interesting. Huh. I don't know what you mean, brother, but yeah. Oh. Let's flip on our YouTube, or not our YouTube, our laptop. Our laptop needs to, it's timing out here, but let's make sure it does not time out. Because it is the catalyst. There we go, it timed out by itself. Smoke a lot of weed. I do not, actually. I haven't smoked weed in 11 years. Weirdly enough, I'm actually low-key thinking of reintegrating. I don't know if it'll ever happen, because I don't like putting anything in my lungs. But I'm curious. I'm like, you know what? Maybe there's a place for like some sort of, I don't know, CBD, THC vaporizer or something. But I haven't smoked anything in any THC in like 11 years. All right, let's lock in here if we can. Gotta make sure we got enough rosin on there. Yeah, if I understand you correctly, Taurus, yeah, I get it. Yeah, just focus on being focus on being a good human being. Doesn't matter what you practice, religious ideology-wise. I have no judgment for it. I think there's flaws in all conceptualizations and spiritual, dogmas and stigmas and blah, blah, blah. But if it lets you be a better human being, if you root yourself in healthy values and it actually inspires you to be a better human being and connect with a spiritual context, beautiful. I'm all for it. If it doesn't, well, you should challenge that. Figure out why it's not working. Feels like I need to master this a little bit. Give us a moment here. Definitely could use a little bit. Something here's a little amiss. Okay, lots of that, lots of this, a little bit of this, a little of that. What a process. I swear, when I was on, well, LSD, but also the mushrooms the other day, like when I'm on psychedelics, I guess, capital P psychedelic, I notice I have a very acute way of hearing how to master my studio setup. It's almost like when I'm on psychedelics, I take a lot of time to sit there and listen to the frequencies and vibrations and feel. It's not just about like, does this sound good? I mean, it all sounds good, but I feel into be like, okay, is this truly like exactly what I want to hear and feel and experience? It's an interesting experience. No, yeah. Previously it was that. Nice. Yeah, dog. Well, good luck with that. Good luck with that. You know, I'm sure there's some people that practice that religious ideology and it serves them beautifully. Yeah, good luck with that. Hope that serves you, brother. In my experience, people that try to limit themselves in a dogmatic way to figures of spiritual ideologies often miss the mark, in all truth. Like, I don't, and I say that with a desire to split open that model of my own beliefs. But yeah, if you're really like almost, let's say, if you are dogmatically fixated on religious icons and ideologies, this is probably not the channel for you, brother. And not to say, honestly, nothing to do with your religious. This is not a religious channel, obviously. It's not a spiritual channel necessarily. I mean, it can be, but this is a music channel more so. Like, we're here to talk about open-hearted, open-minded concepts that relate to things that are more about free-form expression, right? It's about expressions in humans and, you know, how that relates to creativity, etc., etc. So, you know, if you're here on YouTube to talk about, you know, your religious ideologies, you know, bless, all the power to you, brother. But find a channel for that, and I'm sure you'll be met with open arms. That's not this place, though. That's definitely not this place. And, you know, I want to be clear-cut on my boundaries and honoring, you know, the boundaries of this channel. There's many channels where people are like, hey, let's talk about these things. And, you know, in the real world, I would talk about, you know, any ideologies openly. But this is a YouTube channel, and we like to keep things in perspective. Anyways, we have ourselves set up here. This is a little more of a comprehensive angle, I would say. Honestly, I mean, this may be a little bit of a penetrative paradox, or it's contradictive maybe in some right. But I actually don't think I don't think Buddhism or Taoism is a religious or dogmatic religious ideology. It can be, don't get me wrong. Some people can, but I personally, from what I read, I love Zen Buddhism. I love Taoism. I resonate a lot with it. I wouldn't say I am a Buddhist. I wouldn't say I am a Taoist. I read their literature. Like, I read literature from ancient Taoism and Zen Buddhism. I love what they promote. And again, the core context of it is because a lot of it is not dogmatic. A lot of it's not trying to like force their beliefs and opinions on you and be like, okay, but you know, and then XYZ, like, therefore you have to believe this and this is the way that. It's like, it is a framework that's very open to interpretation, especially Taoism. Taoism, I think, because obviously it's aligned with nature. I wouldn't say I want to talk all day and have a philosophical discussion about, you know, the ins and outs of, I don't know, the frameworks of specific things. I would love to do that in general. But long story short, I don't really think Taoism or Zen Buddhism is even what we define as a religious ideology. It's more like a philosophical framework that, you know, has context of religious ideologies, but most of it's pretty separated from the dogmatic sort of religious models that most people might associate. I don't know. In all those things, I personally think whatever gives you happiness, clarity, lets you connect again, kind of what I was returning to with when the homie first asked. Whatever gives you a connection to like source, spirit, you know, creator, divine creator, consciousness, whatever you want to call it, you know, gives you spiritual clarity and helps you be a better human being and root yourself in healthy values. I'm all for that. That's what I'm all for. It's interesting, on a different note, what I've been doing here is I'm very excited that you can't see it, but I have a miniature camera here. Let's see how I can set it up here. It's basically a POV camera. It's about that big. And I have it equipped alongside. Thank you, Denzo. Thank you, Denzio. I hear you loud and clear, brother. I hear you loud and clear. The reverb is coming from, this is my setup here, brother. Yeah, this is, how do we show this? Well, I have my Black Star Fly amp, which is offering a little bit of amplification here. But I also have, my entire setup is basically, I have a Scarlett 2i2. And then I also have my, well, interface plugged in to here. And then I have a preamp, which is my Tonewood amp. Feels like it's still a little bit heavy in the feedback, or not the feedback, it's clipping a little bit. Alright, I like that, that's pretty good. Yo, hey, it's Giga Chad. What is popping? Are my comments flowing through? Yeah, I did see, I didn't read the one thought. More thought about less peace with nothingness. Do you think there is more or less peace with nothingness? Yeah, I was kind of like diving into answering my thoughts to the other homies there. I went on vacation. There was a beach with family and was also celebrating with their birthdays. Experienced more dreams and I wake up on my body. Huh. Wake up out of my body in them. That sounds positive, dog. I don't know. You're talking about dreams. Interesting. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you about that, bro. All I can say is that's congratulations. Maybe your intuitive center is awakening more so. That's probably what I would say is present there. So that sounds like a positive, Floyd. Yeah, or Hunter. Yeah, I'm trying to. Here we are. So it's crazy. You can't really see it. Maybe I can try to. I have a miniature POV camera. But what I've basically done is I've recognized, and I'm going to do this actually more so when I'm busking. Say I'm playing here, right? You guys can see all this, and we'll be streaming, and we'll be doing this guitar music stuff. I've actually recognized I can capture everything on my POV camera and use that as my camera footage for my long format YouTube videos. So basically what I've figured out is I can use the secondary camera, have it just chilling here, aiming exactly as this is. It captures the same footage, pretty much the same quality, except for it's not in a vertical format, it's horizontal. And for me, I don't know, this blows my mind. I'll be honest, like even right now, I'm practicing right now doing this where I'm using the secondary camera, that's a POV camera, to capture horizontal footage of everything that's going on. So I can capture the forest, I can capture all this, you know, beautiful footage, but from a horizontal framework. So I can do the stream, do the vertical thing, do the live stream, you know, rocket that, but then also capture everything beautifully for long format YouTube content horizontally in a perfect angle. So I'm extremely excited for that. For busking it, basically make it so I can do everything that I do and seamlessly capture everything in a beautiful horizontal, you know, long format YouTube type angle. So I'm stoked on that, bro. Like absolutely elated. I don't know why it just took me so long to figure this out. Let's see. So there's themselves call it religion. So who are you to deny that? Yeah. Nah, bro. You gotta really listen. You gotta listen a little deeper. I didn't say it's not religious, but I'm saying it doesn't hold a similar religious framework. Like it's not dogmatic in the sense where it's not trying to like impose a dogmatic view. That's what I said. It's I say that more Buddhist, Zen philosophy, Taoism, I personally see it more as a philosophical system. Like it's obviously all religions have philosophical frameworks. Like obviously every single religion has philosophical mechanisms. We can look at it and we can observe it. It invites free thinking, etc., etc. In my opinion, the philosophical, I would say, the philosophical elements of Zen Buddhism has a very particular way of connecting to me personally and to many people. It invites very particular practices, mentalities that I think are very clear cut. And for Taoism and Zen Buddhism, I think the way that just, um, ancient Taoists are, the way the Buddhists were, has a very deeply integrated, rooted philosophical context. These were men and women that were very rooted in their practices. It was such an ancient heritage that was practiced and passed on for so many generations that it's just reads and is embodied in a different way. How, without getting too in depth in it, like even the way Zen Buddhism and Taoism is interpreted and experienced, the whole essence of a lot of Taoism is understanding how to lean into the paradoxes beyond the mind. It accepts that basically you have to accept the limitation of the words that are being said. It's not meant to be dogmatic. It's not rigid. It's a framework to let you accept how little you know and then see beyond the paradoxes of the mind. And that's a very philosophical rooted piece of things. It's very unique. Obviously, yes, there's people that are Buddhist and Zen, or Buddhism, practice Buddhism, and Taoists that have a very religious framework, and honestly, all the power to them. But yeah, that doesn't deviate from, I'd say, the core central philosophical messages that I think are more important to focus on, right? So if what you're promoting, Sound, is saying that no, we should fixate on the religious frameworks and have dogmatic discussions about these things, sure. Hey, brother, this is what I want to make clear cut to you, because it seems like you're new here. I'm all for philosophical discussion. I'm all for, deeper discussions related to religious ideologies, but I don't think a YouTube channel or a YouTube stream, or the internet as a whole, I don't think the internet is a place to have those sorts of discussions. That's all I'm trying to underline. That's the whole point of why I'm setting boundaries is, yes, people should have controversial or open, let's call them, what's the word? Maybe penetrating or almost just very open discussions about ideologies and, I don't know, frameworks of this and that. Just have heated discussions. Do it all day long in the real world. Express your truth, stand up for your truth. If your truth is trying to make sense of it and package, the ethics of religious ideology, hey man, that's beautiful. That's magical. I think that's an extraordinary use of your energy and time. Doing that on a YouTube channel, that's more so about music, creative expression, or even the internet as a whole, I think often doesn't do that justice. That's my point. So I hope that makes sense, brother. It makes perfect sense to me, but I hope it makes sense to you. Anyways, we're going to let ourselves really focus our energy right here. Yeah. But you said you didn't want discussions of eager to discuss when it was religion and the framework fails in your framework, meaning religion isn't what you're against. But what you're eager to discuss when the religion falls in your framework, meaning religion isn't what you're just against. Nah, brother, I made this clear, but I think comprehension is not strong in this interaction. I'm talking about frameworks relating to almost like controversial discussions of maybe the in and outs of ethics of certain religions. It's almost like, hey, bro, you want to talk about religion, religious ideology? Let's talk about philosophical layers this gets nuanced, brother. But if you're not listening deeply to what I'm saying, like, maybe it's your limitations. You're typing on a YouTube stream. That's all good, brother. But there's certain boundaries that I want to set on a YouTube stream, and this extends to the internet. I think that some people don't know how to hold space for certain elements of an argument. It's almost like what we're talking about is arguments, right? You want to have an argument, you're like, hey, brother, let's have an argument about your religious ethics. Let's do that. If you were to say that's what we're going to do, I would say this is not the place, not the time. Why? There's many different reasons. Maybe I don't know you. I don't know how emotionally invested you are or not. I don't know. You're limited in your capacity to express your truth, to communicate your truth, to comprehend my truth. This is the internet. This is a YouTube live stream. So even if we're like, you know what, in the real world, yeah, brother, let's hold space. Let's have an open-minded discussion. Couldn't hurt. I'm going to say that this is not the time and place. And the reason why is, again, there are certain stipulations. And yes, if we're going to talk about philosophy, a more broader context, because you have to realize if you're not reading into what I'm saying, then, this is going to get lost in translation. There is philosophical context, philosophical contextualizations that is rooted in all religion. Doesn't matter what we're talking about. It doesn't mean we're talking about the ethics and the ins and outs of religion as a whole. You don't basically need to be practicing a religious ideology to appreciate and resonate with the core messages and philosophical truths that these religions are trying to offer. Now, whether you have the ability or comprehension or space to desire to hold space for that, I don't know. That's up to you. That's usually how you show up. I'm open to that. I'm open to philosophical discussions. You're like, you know what? I found truth, clarity, and happiness in practicing, I don't know, compassion and open-hearted this, and I don't know, I've found myself desire to be a better man and, practice and be in integrity. Those are philosophical elements of these things that, I'm like, you know what? Beautiful. Congratulations. But if you're like going to get into the religious ethics and, want to almost like open a different rabbit hole that's argumentative in the nature of it, that's not what we're here to do. At least not on the internet. I would do that all day long in a regular world interaction, but yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I read the situation correct, and you're just not getting it. Interesting. Brother, I think, again, you're saying a couple things. Let's see. You're not comprehending. Yeah, you said you don't want any religious discussion. Channel not for that. But I knew you would rule for Buddhism. Yeah. Brother, I didn't say... Man, you're just... I don't know. I'm not sure this is the channel for you. Like, I don't know if you're... Like, again, because you're not reading in anything I'm saying. I don't want to argue with you about your... This is what you're doing. You're trying to argue about the ins and outs of religious frameworks of like what is religious, what is not religious. That's exactly what I'm setting a firm boundary on, brother. Like, practice some self-awareness. No, I personally think people can talk about whatever religious philosophical pieces of these things, but I don't want people to have like religious arguments that are just from this weird, biased, emotional standpoint. I set a firm boundary in that. Like, dog, it's like, and even the fact that you're trying to argue almost like this stance of being like, oh no, but he's talking about Buddhism and Taoism and saying that the philosophical framework of that I connect to is somehow me saying that I think Buddhism is favorable or I'm biasing, be like, no, we can just talk about Buddhism and Taoism, but not this religion. No, brother, hold space for whatever you desire to hold space for. But I think you should be healthily objective in the way that you're talking about these things, and more so respectful in the nature of how you want to unpackage these things. Like understanding, is this coming from a place where you're just trying to like basically argue with an empty sake of just desiring to argue? I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm articulating this the best for you, brother, but all I'm saying is I'm not here to argue over the internet with strangers for good reason, out of respect for you. Like at any point, I don't think anyone should do this, on Facebook, Instagram. It's there's certain conversations that do and should be done in person. And of course, you're just typing on your phone. I'm talking. There's a little bit of indifference there. And, you know, maybe you have emotional biases relating to certain religious ideologies. You know what? I've heard all these different biases relating to this religion, that religion. That's what I'm trying to set a firm boundary on. If you can't comprehend that, if you're trying to argue about that, you're actually reinforcing my entire point. I'm not here to argue about the ins and outs of what you think is appropriate or is comprehensive to talking about on the internet. And again, in relation to, there are certain philosophical elements that people can discuss in a healthy, emotionally intelligent way. And the reason why I want to make that distinction is, it's like if you study philosophy, like Soundwave, you may or may not, I don't know, maybe you're a philosophical guy, maybe you're not, I don't know you. But if you're a student of philosophy and you have any genuine, background, like, you know what, I read Aristotle, or I read, I don't know, Descartes or Marcus Aurelius, or maybe it's Lao Tzu, or one of those things. If you take some time to try to integrate your own philosophical context, forget any of those, books, beautiful philosophers in my perspective, you'll realize that the core essence of what a lot of these philosophers are trying to do is not trying to argue. They're trying to honor each other's perspective while opening a whole door for another perspective. They're trying to find truth, basically. Philosophers desire to find truth. They don't argue with any other consensus of being like, you know what, I have some truth, you have some truth. We're going to argue with a deeper acknowledgement and awareness that both of us have truth, and let's come to the discussion. It's basically the ancient sort of Aristotelian, or how we pronounce that, way of arguing. If you're not going to argue with a deep awareness of why you're arguing, which honestly I'm getting this impression that you don't, that based on you're like, oh brother, but you're talking about this and that. It's like, are you even aware of what you're arguing for? Like, are you even aware that what an argument is? Not saying you do. I don't know, Soundwave. I don't know you. This is a YouTube stream. Full circle point. I don't want to argue with you at all because it feels like you're wasting my time. But all I'm saying is, if you do or do not have the ability to hold space for a healthy philosophical argument, I don't know, that will be revealed. But that's what I invite. That's the boundary I'm setting. And historically, brother, people that try to associate too heavily with religious ideologies, when you're doing it, especially in something like a YouTube live stream where they're limited, they're emotionally invested, that often falls short of a deeper philosophical argument. These are people that get emotionally invested. They're not applying this like ancient philosophical model of being like, wait a second, I'm arguing with the sense of honoring the other person's truth. It's often coming from a heavily emotionally invested, biased place. And it is what it is. People need those arguments too. But in my opinion, that's not what this is here to hold space for. I don't know. I'm a little bit I haven't streamed in like 4 or 5 days, and I'm sitting in my own way. Like I've been... that is, I think I'm just fresh out of a shroom exosphere. So I hope that made sense, though. I hope that made sense, Sound. If not, then, again, it is what it is. That's funny as fuck, bro. To Luke Hawley. Great practice to acknowledge the truths and the things we do here. Yeah, absolutely. Defeats itself anyways. It comes down to nothing truly exists, and why Tibetan Buddhists always fight. Interesting. Yeah, man. Great practice to acknowledge the truths. Yeah. I don't get how this went. I don't get how this unraveled the way it did, but all I'm simply expressing is I desire to create healthy, firm boundaries and acknowledge this is a music channel. I invite open expression, things related to creative expression, things that, maybe resonate and awaken creative expression. In my experience, philosophies and certain philosophies do that. And I really invite those kind of conversations. Most Christian or religious ideology, not even Christian, sorry, all religious ideologies, if it's like something that you're really firmly rooted on, all the power to you, but this is not the channel to argue about that. Yeah. Don't be a hypocrite. Well, thank you for sharing and addressing that. And I'll keep your words to heart, brother. I will desire not to be a hypocrite or, continue to try to, acknowledge that, brother. Wow. Sound. Since, again, unfortunately, I have to say this again, brother. Comprehension's not your strong suit. I really don't think you're you're really successfully comprehending anything that's going on. So I'm not going to continue to actually interact with you, brother. And if you do continue to be like, you know what, but hey, let's have a religious argument. Let's talk about the ins and outs of being like, but you said Buddhism is non-religious, this, that. Brother, I'd never even expressed that. I was saying I don't consider it dogmatic in the way that a lot of religions are. And I see that a lot of people, they're more philosophically, it's like there's almost like a lot of philosophical takeaways that people connect with. And that's what I invite people to discuss. Obviously, it's a people practice and religious framework. That's not what I personally find is important to focus on. But anyways, I don't know. You're kind of like you're circling around. You're saying like, but I was talking about this and that. You're doing exactly what I actually purposely have set a healthy boundary against. So yeah, thank you for sharing your perspective, Sound. And honestly, I honor what you're saying, but I'm now going to ignore you. I'm honestly going to ignore it because it doesn't seem like you're actually successfully showing you're comprehending and you're saying. And if you continue to just, poke and blah, 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 and I mean, I don't know, you can do what you do, you have free will, brother, but I feel like I might have to just remove your comment section or your comment rights. Just out of respect. Because again, it's a YouTube channel. We don't need people kind of just like arguing about nonsense. Like, I get it, brother. You got beliefs you want to stand behind, but you're not listening. Like, I'm telling you, YouTube and the internet is never the place to try to like really hold like a firm stance. Like if you got a firm stance, like, hey, brother, Buddhism is a religious ideology or not, great, brother. Share your truth. Do that when it matters. Embody that truth in the real world. On a YouTube channel that's about music, about sound healing, as we, invite philosophical discussions, talking about guitar stuff, not the place. Choose your battles. It will serve you a lot better. That's all I'll say on a concluding note. Good luck with your journey, Sound. Oof. Seems like the attack is still a little bit elusive. Could be the way I have this amp aimed at me, though. Slowly, we are getting warmed up with the Picasso bow. Yeah. Predicted you don't actually mean it and then proved it. I predicted you didn't actually mean it and then proved it. Wow. Soundwave. Wow. Brother, your comprehension and almost like your borderline passive level of, I don't know what to say. Like if you really think that this is a YouTube stream, that I'm facilitating, creating a healthy boundary, and then you're just like, but yes, I desire to interject. Because obviously boundaries are not something I'm sitting here being rigid. I'm not going to be like, putting down an iron hammer. But I desire to hear people out. But obviously set healthy boundaries. Because just because you dishonored someone's boundary, that I wouldn't consider that a win, brother. I'd consider that a moment to maybe practice a bit of self-reflection and self-awareness. And even practicing what you preach, bro. Yeah. Anyway, thank you for sharing, Doc. Thank you. This is the first hour. The first hour is religious, followed by full-on political debate. Who knows, brother? Maybe the universe needed to air out what is a healthy boundary in relation to this thing. I don't know. I don't know, maybe just too nonchalant. Because we want to live in a society that values what's actually true and not what someone feels is true. Interesting. Yeah. That's an interesting perspective there. We live in a society that values what is actually true. I agree 1,000%. That's an ethical framework that I fully agree with. And honestly, that's kind of the essence of what I just wanted to underline is if a person is actually practicing what they preach, they have healthy values and integrity. And weirdly enough, this is paradoxically what Sounding was just doing is he was arguing for something, well, basically almost in a subtle sense, I would say compromising the very core beliefs that I think he was trying to promote. Like he's been like, hey brother, you shouldn't be a hypocrite because I'm gonna dishonor your boundaries and argue what is religious ideology, and then now I'm gonna continue to almost say that's a judgment of your character or because I judged or dishonored this. It's just a whole bunch of bullocks. I think, Sounding is kind of like not doing. All I'm simply saying is, and this is the kind of the core point of why I create these boundaries is people like Sounding, so to speak, they're not doing their argument a service. They're not doing their stance on whatever it is they're, standing up for. They're not doing it a service. They're doing it a disservice. That's all I'm saying. And I have a feeling that Sounding or whatever his name was, is kind of holding that stance a little bit. He's not practicing the comprehension of self-awareness to be like, wait a second, is this an actual healthy and appropriate time to hold a stance for this philosophical or spiritual religious ideology argument that he desires to have? And when it's not, then now here he is doing a disservice to what he's preaching, promoting. He's basically compromising, literally almost like basically compromising his actual system of values, like acting like, okay, but I'm saying one thing while at the other time doing another. And that's, paradoxically, it's not what about someone thinks is true or thinks is the right thing or thinks of what's ethically sound. It's about what is actually how you're showing up, what you're actually practicing and embodying. So, I mean, that's kind of the core thing. I think I'm going to conclude a lot of this, beautiful discussion and framework is I felt this was the actual first thing I said in this discussion is I believe people, if it helps them be a better person, helps them practice, with be a more integral person, root themselves in their core values, just be a better human being. Beautiful. If it doesn't, well, challenge that ideology, challenge it, step outside of it. Don't just sit there and mindlessly think that, oh, because I'm practicing this, and it's almost like you're seeking this idea of what is good or what is true versus actually understanding what it means to embody it. That's all. And then again, that's full circle. This is what it means to philosophically extract and contextualize something. I'm not sitting here arguing, being like, hey, you're wrong because of blah, 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 blah. You're a bad person because of blah, blah. I'm not doing that. And I don't desire to do that because I don't think Sounding's a bad person or right or wrong. That's the whole point. When you have a philosophical argument, you're open to extract the core message and acknowledge, where you might have limitations or what the other person's perspective may be, because you want to attain what is truth. The whole point, kind of what I said halfway through the conversation, is the ancient philosophical context of how you argue is you're seeking truth. You don't care about being right or wrong or like, I'm right, they're wrong, they're a bad person, I'm a good person. That's not the point. It's about being like, let's have a nice open-hearted discussion to understand what is true. What is your truth? What is my truth? How can we come to a deeper consensus of truth? If you don't even acknowledge that, like if you're like, oh no, but I'm right, you're wrong, you're not having an argument. You're not having an argument. At least not an argument that's actually rooted in, again, the ancient ways. So I think, Sounding was kind of riding a slippery slope where he was being like, let's hop on some sort of, I don't know, weird boundary pervading paradox, which again, that's why he earned arduously that permanent comment removal. Like he did it. Honestly, I wanted to hear him out, but homie was very, very much desiring to reveal his character, and he was revealing, he wanted to make sense of what was going on in there, and I respect that. And he did to the bitter end. And hey, all I can say is in this world, I respect men and women, of course, that want to speak their truth, have deep arguments, challenge people's religious ideology or political ideology or whatever it is. Hey, man, all the power to you. People need to have that shit challenged. But not on a YouTube channel, not on the internet, at least not on my channel. because I want this to be about music, brothers and sisters. I want it to be about things that are not like people arguing all day long in comment sections with failed context and weird emotional biases. You can do that in the real world. If you can stare someone in the eyes in a real world interaction and, sit in integrity and have an argument, hey man, I do that all the time, let's go. But this is a YouTube channel. That's why boundaries exist. Anyways, I hope that made sense. I don't know. Let us focus, ladies and gentlemen, once again, on being present with the music. We're gonna hop into open B. Interesting. We're also, again, as we said earlier, we're attempting to experiment with our secondary little camera here. Popped it on right here. We got the secondary camera that's capturing everything from a beautiful horizontal POV stance. So as we are, because we may or may not go and busk, depends. I'm fresh off a very intense shrimp journey. I may just honor my body, do strength training, go just do nothing, but we may go busk. So if we are, might as well practice doing our busking performance, which involves, standing up and, improvising. And what we want to do, like kind of part of this experiment today, is we are, capturing this angle. So this is what you guys see. But also, we have a secondary POV camera that's capturing everything on a beautiful, crisp, horizontal lens. So imagine this. I'm like, all right, that was a great stream. And I'm like, okay, so now what we want to do is we want to release this as long form content, right? We play some riffs, or we have some great interactions. We're like, you know what? I think I really want to release this into the YouTube wilderness. Now we have this beautiful POV camera that captures everything here from a horizontal lens. And it's actually a fisheye lens too, so it looks very beautiful. So now what we're doing is all of this in back of me. You guys can kind of see this, like we can kind of see the forest here, but on this POV camera that's right beside it, it's capturing everything. So I'm excited to see how this looks afterwards. This is also the nature of the experiment we are doing today. Oh, looks like my my laptop has timed out, as it does. I remember this song, You're Right. Nice. I don't know what we're right about, or whomever's right. We're all right, friends. We're all right. We're all wrong. We live in a freaking... So this is the funny thing, is, we're not going to get deep down this rabbit hole, but there's reasons why I like Taoism. There's reasons why I like frameworks that are open models, that are not dogmatic. Because the more I've gone my own philosophical explorations, you can practice whatever you want. Hey, let's be real here. Religious ideologies or, one-dimensional models, they serve as a role to learn how to step outside of them. That's what I'll say in a simple summary. That's the absolute truth that I've seen. But in my opinion, the road to where our consciousness goes as his philosophical expansion often is woven within understanding metaphysics. That is understanding basically what Taoism paints in a very ancient model is there's paradoxes beyond the mind. There is paradoxes beyond the mind. Now, metaphysical philosophy, a lot of metaphysical philosophy, or, a lot of literature that touches on and likes to reference metaphysical philosophy, it points out, so when it goes, it times out, interesting. I think I need to charge now my POV camera. This might be what's happening here. I think we've successfully captured, though, this experiment with our little side camera. Oh, man, this is exciting stuff. Yeah, I think it is. Okay, it's either out of space or it's dead. That's what my camera is telling me, my little side camera. We'll have to look back and figure it out after. All I can say is, though, shout out to POV cameras. We're just going to take our little camera off and disregard it and go charge it when we get home. But yeah, long story short, friends, metaphysical philosophy teaches us that, yes, the paradoxes of the mind can actually be put into perspective. But guess what? Oftentimes, they are paradoxical. Who'd have thought? The things that often you have to hold a different system of beliefs that often imbues your felt experience to actually begin to acknowledge them. You have to strip away the one-dimensional narratives and systems of beliefs that you're very much, a lot of us, if not all of us, are very much heavily gripping onto to begin to then comprehend, well, what these models of metaphysics often tells us. And that's another story, but that kind of underlines a part of why I feel like Taoism, weirdly enough, is an ancient model of acknowledging the paradoxes beyond the mind, or the paradoxes of the mind, things that are beyond the mind. And modern metaphysics that is explained and validated by modern, neuroscience and various types of medical science, like Joe Dispenza-esque stuff. This literally explains, validates, and beautifully illuminates a lot of what these ancient Taoist, texts are trying to tell us. Obviously, Taoism is just it's just one realm of trying to understand deeper truths. Like all these religious ideologies or whatever, they have beautiful realms of truth. I just think Taoism did a beautiful job. They did a beautiful job. But anyways, please, Titanic music. Man, I only know pan flute Titanic music. I'll be honest here. That is what I know. Yeah? Not very well. That's kind of the song that gets stuck in my head. It's that core theme from Titanic where it's like Heart Goes On or something. I don't even think it has to do anything with Titanic. It's like some sort of song. I guess YouTube blessed the stream here with a bunch of new viewers. Did it now? I don't think so. Or yeah, probably. You're probably right. But I'll be honest, Floyd, YouTube likes to bless the stream with new viewers often. Sometimes it's in, great waves. Sometimes it's not. I haven't streamed for 3-4 days. So I honestly would not be surprised if YouTube is not exploding the stream. That's okay. We we're not aiming for that. But I hear you, dog. You're right, Hunter. That's right. The universe has blessed me with new human beings that have fresh opinions. And guess what? Maybe that's part of the this universe needed the homie, sounding. Bless his soul. I guess he's not here anymore. Whoa. When a rock falls in the woods. Where is that from? Maybe it's all the birds. Oh, never mind. The birds over there. Anyways, you can tell I'm fresh out of a shroom trip. Well, not today, but yesterday. But the idea is just, I agree, hey, the universe needed sounding to have this interaction. Genuinely. And maybe in some context, that's what needed to happen here. I don't know. But here we are. I'm sorry to hear that, Victor. Thank you, Great Vian. Victor, I feel like you're some kind of guy. One of those guys that probably needs to lose his comment rights permanently. I'm just seeing that. I'm predicting that, brother. Nothing against you, but C.S. Lewis was a great philosopher. He was Christian. Brother asked the reader questions and they would possibly answer themselves. That's beautiful, Verita Stellar. Yeah, dog. I appreciate Alan Watts. Alan Watts' perspective, as a man that was a preacher, Christian preacher, for most of his life. And of course he, changed more into a different, he practiced more metaphysics, and then he practiced Buddhism for a period, and Taoism, and Alan Watts' background is extraordinarily intriguing in many rights. But all I can say is I love Alan Watts and resonate a lot with it, and I feel like, of course, that's kind of the essence of what I was underlining. We won't go too deep into that rabbit hole, of course, just for the sake of focusing on the music, but I 100% believe and appreciate deeply the philosophical context that is rooted in all ideologies, religious, whatever. And again, that's the core emphasis. All of these things have philosophical contexts and elements we can extract, and those are beautiful. It is when we get lost in the sort of the, you know, the sea of I don't even know how to describe it right now. I guess the sea of the frameworks, as we like. We use the word framework. You know, hopefully I'm not botching that or creating further disconnect with that. But it's like, yeah, I think it's clear as day that there's the philosophical elements, and then there's the almost the rigid frameworks that are imposed, you know, culturally, historically, for a good reason. These are ethical frameworks that are about people to try to, you know, discern these parts of these things. And honestly, it gets often lost in translation. But again, I don't know. I'm not an expert. I'm not an expert in those frameworks. All I can say is I appreciate philosophy, philosophers, deeply. And kind of for the reasons that I already underlined a little bit earlier. Ah, very nice. Okay. Whoa, that's not. That's the chord we want. Yeah. It'd be awesome to hear you playing something. Absolutely, brother. We will focus our attention here fully on our playing at this point. Again, the kind of core essence of what we're doing here is we're trying to warm up. We're trying to experiment with our secondary camera alongside, of course, warm up some of our flow. You know, calibrate our sound setup a little bit, which is always a fun task, but interesting. All right. Anyways, I like your videos, man. Well, thank you, Michael. Wicked. Mental health is horrible. That's fair. Well, hopefully the tides change in your favor. That's all I can say, because my mental health has actually been pretty uncalibrated, pretty unregulated or dysregulated. That's the word. You know, for on and off for a period of the last couple of weeks. I mean, namely because, you know, sort of celebrating my own path and myself lately is I was injured. I was injured for about 4 weeks, actually. I had a wrist injury I sustained very randomly. And it basically made it so I couldn't do strength training for, well, 4 weeks. Yeah. And the last 2 days, I finally went back to the gym, finally full strength, can do handstand push-ups, calisthenics, strength training. And yeah, so I'm very fortunate. I'm like, you know what? I'm very happy that I can regularly engage in that. And alongside that, you know, I sat with psilocybin yesterday. I've found myself, aligned myself with Changa again. I've been sitting with a lot of, you know, meditative practices and a very extensive cardiovascular training practice. So all I can say is, you know, honor yourself, honor the lessons that the trials right now that you're experiencing or your dysregulated mental health is trying to teach you some very important lessons. And, you know, all you can do is just honor it, listen to it, and, yeah, you know, receive help if you need it, you know, support or, help yourself if you can. You know, if you need that support. I don't know. There's a lot to say there, but honestly, I hope your mental health, again, the tides change in your favor. We've gotten ourselves all tangled up here. Great. Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. Beautiful. Decay, Predley. Very nice. Very nice. Anyways, where in the world am I? Canada, my friend. All right, I think that will do. Yeah. It's a green screen. Nice. Guessing California. Man, I would not know, but I imagine California has beautiful forests. Seems like he was right, though. Said no religion is a boundary, and you were talking about Eastern religions with no problem. Right. Talking about Eastern religions without a problem. What exactly we're talking about with Eastern? Bro, I don't know. I don't know what to say. I think people hear what they desire to hear or comprehend. I mean, answering the questions or the thoughts about, I don't know, certain ethical frameworks or philosophical frameworks. Yes, sir. All day long. But there's no part of me that was just like, all right, friends, let's start to have a discussion about, I don't know, whatever sort of rigid frameworks about, you know, I don't know, religious figures or this and that. Like, brother, I don't know. I'm not entirely sure if you have, neither do I necessarily, have an acute awareness of what exactly these religious frameworks are, because I'm not here to talk about, I mean, the only thing I've talked about in relation to those is why I don't want people talking about these things, which I think is healthy, because that's the whole point, is like, I like to underline why these boundaries are in place, relating to people having healthy philosophical discussions. That's what I would love to talk about. Let's go all day long. But no, brother, I think you're incorrect. I mean, point out, please, but also you're kind of wasting my time to be like, yeah, maybe to some degree I've been like, me pointing out people to the boundaries of why I think people shouldn't talk about certain elements, or, you know, setting or trying to explain what these boundaries are. Maybe, you know, in some sense, what's the word? Pervading the boundaries, which I already expressed, you know, to the one homie. I was like, we're basically trying to stretch that boundary for the sense of it. And I don't know, it's not something I desire to do, but I wanted to kind of just like express sort of why I feel it's important for people to separate what is sort of healthy discussions and how people can hold space for healthy arguments. And this is more to do with philosophy. It's nothing to do with religious ideology. I mean, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but brother, I'm not talking about like any of these like strict religious frameworks. I'm not sitting here even promoting any of these religious things. I'm talking about like broader context, broader concepts that relate in a whole different level. Like, again, I don't know, maybe it's for sounding or for extension, you know, yourself, or if people are listening, they're like, nah, but this is all religious. Brother, I don't practice any of these religions, and I'm not here promoting or being like, hey, let's talk about me. You're right. If you're saying that me technically trying to express why I've set these boundaries and be like, you know what, like, let's discuss what is healthy in my perspective to talk about, like the philosophy of it. I think it's pretty clear. It's pretty black and white. Yeah. But hey, man, if that in your definition is me overstepping that boundary and be like, hey, I'm talking all about, I don't know, whatever you'd consider religious frameworks, then I guess my bad. I don't know. Me trying to define and be like, hey, I'm trying to explain what exactly is appropriate in some context that people can talk about relating to like a deeper context of these things. I don't know. Maybe that is my bad. Maybe that's I don't know. Maybe to you or whatnots or the viewers, that's blurring the line a little bit. But again, I think I don't know. It's pretty far off, bro. I think it's pretty far off from me being like, hey, friends, so now we're going to talk about, I don't know, what's in a good example? Why the Buddha says we got to practice compassion. And all right, so now this is why I believe this, because in accordance to this religious passage, blah, 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 thou shalt this. Like, brother, I had zero connection to that. Not to throw salt in any of that. Like, that was... But I think you're pretty far off base if you think I'm sitting here, attesting, trying to bend over backwards and preach religious ideology. But I hear ya. We don't want to blur the lines, dog. I don't know. The essence of all I'm trying to say is, like, in a very clear statement and then focusing back on the music, which we've been botching doing. I mean, fuck it. This is a stream. It's got zero framework ultimately, but I just want to encourage people to have healthy discussions, in the real world, healthy arguments in the real world. If the boundary is set, literally be like, I don't want people arguing all day long, about their ethics or about the specifics of religions or political ideologies, because that's sometimes what people want to do. And hey, Godspeed, do that all you want in the real world, but this is a YouTube channel. I am openly desiring to accept and admit that being on a YouTube live stream or a Facebook, I don't know, FAQ or a Reddit forum or whatever you want to do, the internet is not the place to have those kinds of discussions and philosophical arguments, or just arguments as a whole. Now, it's possible, don't get me wrong, people can actually hold space for emotionally intelligent arguments and this and that, but the whole point of setting a boundary, it's not me being like, hey guys, we cannot talk about anything like that because I'm trying to like judge or shame or like one is right or wrong. That's what I wanted to make clear from the start. And that's why I actually banned, Sounding's comment rights, the one guy that was talking about this, because I don't think he was actually comprehending, which I did accept and express, any of that. It's like, I'm not here to be like, hey brother, you're right or wrong, or you're wrong, you're right, this religion's right on. I don't care about it. That's not what we're here to do. We're setting a boundary to be like, this is a YouTube stream. That's more about music, about creative expression. I love philosophy. I love metaphysical philosophy. I love talking about the things that inspire you, inspire creative expression. Maybe inspire, spiritual growth, blah, 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 right? Those are the things I like to underline. The boundary that I set is just to be like, I don't think people should be arguing on the internet, because you should probably have those discussions and arguments in quotations in the real world when it matters with a fully comprehensive context of why you're arguing. That's it, right? You want to have an argument? Choose your battles, practice what you preach, embody it. Go in the real world, in the moment when it really matters, have those arguments, express your truth, voice that. That's not what the internet or a YouTube live stream is for, quintessentially. That was the whole point of me trying to underline, I've underlined this before, but that's kind of what I'm trying to advocate. It's not me being like, hey, the dude was right or wrong. Dude's probably a freaking, is probably a stellar human being, I'm gonna assume, more or less. I'm not saying he's right or wrong about anything. I don't think anyone, I don't know any of these people listening to on a live stream. They don't know me. We can't sit there and pretend that any of these arguments have true validity if they're trying to argue or have a stance on things. And that was kind of full circle what I was noticing is the homie was, and this happens, every so once in a while, that's why I create this boundary, they do a disservice to what they're arguing for. Like, it's like if you have an argument, you don't understand why you're arguing, you don't hold space for a healthy, emotionally intelligent argument, are you actually doing a service to the thing you're arguing for? Most cases, no. And this can go in many different directions, but boundaries are there for a reason. And hey, I respect men or women or people that want to argue their truth. They're on a quest for truth. They want to argue about meaningful things. All the power to you, brother. But again, choose your battles. YouTube live streams, internet, probably not the place. That's all I'm going to say. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling the key of open B. It's a nice key. I think this is the key we've been meant to be in all along, which weirdly enough is often the case. The key of B is a magical key. Oh. I think we got to find a way to lock out our laptop. Because it's doing this beautiful thing where it's timing itself out. Nice. Oh well, c'est la vie. Yeah. This mouth of that. You're in the first person I've seen this thing. The string is almost like a violin. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, it's a violin bow, dog. It's a violin. It's a miniature violin bow. Picasso bow, it's called. Honestly, it's kind of challenging. I'll be honest. That is this bow. It can present some challenges where, as I've made videos about this, talking kind of how to use it or the ins and outs of what I've noticed. But in the simplest right, you have to like warm up the angle. That is, you got to have a good posture. You want to like find the best angle. You see, that's pretty silky, right? And it helps to have a calibrated audio. That is, you master your audio. So it's creating the perfect balance of resonance where it's not clipping out, where there's not like a heavy top end when you do an attack. It's not like jarring on the ears. So you got to calibrate that. And then you got to do the strike in a nice balanced angle. And then also you got to apply rosin. Yeah? You do those three things, you can produce a violin sound. You don't do those three things, it kind of sounds like dog shit. That's what I've noticed. But yeah. It's a great prop, though. It's a great prop. Because we love violins. Because compassion brings a beauty and peace to the world and allows balance to heal the diseased. Yeah. It's true, bro. I mean, straight up, brother or sister, I can say that's kind of the essence of how I began this stream. Well, today was, I was kind of like, hey, friends. I was like, we can all, I hope you are finding warmth. And as I kind of, labeled this stream, like bliss, letting yourself, I forget exactly what I labeled this. Blah, 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 warmth, bliss, community, I don't know, receiving community and support or something. I don't know, but things are relevant themes in my life. But I really hope that's, it's like compassion. Like, I've seen this in real time when I was on shrooms yesterday, like a very intense mushroom experience. I was like observing my own psychological models and, my beliefs and looking at some things and being like, huh, like, where in this way of how I may be creating resistance or, creating barriers or ways of cutting myself off from maybe certain people in my life that want to help and support certain things. It was like, it's like there's something to just letting yourself like really just, you know, lean into warmth, compassion. Maybe it's empathy. Maybe it is love or trusting or safety. It's like it's a conscious choice to be like, you know what? I'm going to choose to trust, the people in my life. Like to let go of these boundaries or these walls, to, just to ultimately ask for support or help and be like, you know what? I want to see the good in people. I want to hold compassionate and have a compassionate heart for people. Pretty challenging in this world. Like, let's be real here. It's like if you're going through some harrowing shit, you're fear based, you're programmed in a place, all you feel is fear, all you feel is this rigidity. It is a strong and a very like arduous and brave stance to be like, you know what? I'm going to practice some compassion. I'm going to open my heart. I'm going to step outside of fear. Because like this world, I mean, it's a very intense world. I don't know if you guys are living in the depths of like, a cityscape like I do sometimes, where you go into the world and like, whoa, a lot of people are like really in an intense place. Like they're drowning in escapism. They're absorbing a lot of intense maladaptive patterning. Like the world is a very intense place. So, if you can really be strong enough and brave enough, actually, like to be like, I'm going to open my heart. I'm going to step back into trust and love, see the beauty and love and trust in the fellow human being, practice things like compassion. That's a brave stance. Like that takes a lot of strength, especially as men. Because, men, we are unfortunately are culturally and societally programmed the worst in a sense of suppressing warmth, love, trust, support. We are in a place where we're like, nah, we got to be strong. We got to be freaking, hyper masculine in a sense. I don't know, maybe hopefully that's not you guys. But, I've been through that in many rights where it's like we are taught often to suppress so many things. And when I was on the shrooms yesterday, man, I mean, so many things flowed through, but the absolute depths of it was like, I'm sitting here like feeling myself process so much love and joy and, acceptance of like, I want to lean into more love and express and share this and experience this and let this in, and being like, why? There's so much I've suppressed and continuously will suppress and have suppressed. And, it's just the nature of societal programming in some way. But yeah, it takes a lot of bravery to feel compassion, a lot of bravery to open your heart, to actually love and be like, you know what, I'm going to love human beings. I'm going to love my fellow human being. In a world that's this fucked up, like, that's powerful stuff. And, yeah. I found myself yesterday when I was on shrooms very actively making lots of really weird noises on the pan flute. I mean, I was making lots of like deep ohms and beautiful like chant kind of sounds like sound healing, kind of like Tibetan throat singing. It's something I explore a lot. I love it. It's a beautiful practice. But the idea was I was playing around a lot with like bird sounds, basically. The pan flute can create like weird bird sounds, like this kind of, or even if I probably have to like remove this. I gotta like do a vibrato on the pan flute, which is something I can't do when I'm holding a guitar like that. Just kind of do that. Something like that. I don't know. It gets more intricate if you hold it more prominently, but the weird thing is the pan flute creates like such ancient, strange, almost like bird calls. Like if you're in these higher notes, It's actually crazy. I can mimic certain birds, like sounds of owls shrieking or eagles and like weird sounds that I've heard in the nature. I'll actually mimic them. I'll like hear the note, or like crows doing weird noises. I'll like take the note that they're doing and then just like emulate it back at them. And it usually trips them out. I mean, they're probably tripped out in general, but very fun stuff. When I was on streams, I was just like, this is all I want to do. Like I literally spent like 2 hours sitting in a forest, just doing like Tibetan throat singing, just kind of like, but like low notes over and over again, and then doing like weird pan flute noises. And it's all I wanted to do. It's all I wanted to do, man. It's great. It felt like a ceremony. It really did. Yeah. Can't believe that's the first time I've seen it. It sounds so good. Absolutely, right? Like, that's the thing is, I swear, because this is the thing with the pan flute. And this is very interesting because it's kind of telling is, see, with the pan flute, right? Some of the best notes are very difficult to access. I mean, the pan flute as a whole, they're the best, like the high notes are the trickiest to play. Like if you pick up a pan flute, you can probably play like, you can just blow and be like, but to play like the high notes, you know, you gotta perfectly dial in the stream of air, and you gotta angle it, and you gotta create the embouchure, and you gotta have the diaphragm activation, and you gotta do all those things. And then if you want to do the notes that are in the minor key, like way down here, those are even harder to access. Like they just like feel strenuous to the facial muscles, and you gotta like hear it perfectly. Like your ear has to be like, okay, there it is. But those are the most beautiful sounding notes. And for some reason, when I was on shrooms, all I did was like play those really, really weird notes. It was like really low, like minor notes, and make like bird sounds with those minor notes. I swear, if a person, there was people like families in their households, like around, a few miles out, and all they probably could hear was these weird pan flute notes, these like mystical, very strange, minor pan flute notes. And I was just like sitting there on shrooms being like, whoa, like this is living, baby. I don't know. Must break from the societal created evils. There's the heart, uplifting compassion. Yeah. 8A, man. In 2026, if you're a human being and you're really like present here, you're authentically living your human experience and not running away from it, you're going to realize that, yeah, that's hard to do. Like to strip away the societal programming and be like, you know what? I'm going to be who I desire to be, and I'm going to live my authentic path, and I'm going to like live with heart. That is very challenging sometimes. Like you got to like really strip away a lot. And like, that's kind of like the essence of what I'm underlining, in real time right now. But also like, I was sitting about this a lot yesterday. Is like, there is so much programming. Like let's, I mean, it's probably obvious, but when you're on, a psychedelic per se, and you're sitting there really thinking and feeling into this, like you're feeling into, you're just like, why has it been so long? Like this is like the commonality I see myself feel when I sit with a psychedelic, whether it's shrooms or LSD or Changa, I immediately kind of like get this melancholic feeling, like it has been so long. And it's like, part of it's kind of like a tragedy. I'm like, like, wow, this is kind of sad. Like this is melancholic. Like it's heartbreaking to be like, why has it been so long since I've returned to this depth of feeling, of heart resonance, of being like, why is society, like societal masks and facades, or, societal roles, or who knows what, right? Maybe it's just you're living your life. You're like, yeah, I'm working a job, I'm living this, I'm making money, I'm thriving in egoic, validative realms, and you're just like, yes, life. And then you like step outside of that and you're like, holy fuck, like we've been suppressing so much. We've been living outside of the heart so much. We've forgotten some of the core beautiful truths of why we're here so in-depthly. And yeah, it's like a tragedy. You're just like, whoa. And all I'm simply saying is, it's sobering and sometimes harrowing to process and accept and acknowledge and face that we are in a deeply woven construct of programming. Like you can tell yourself, no, I'm doing great, I'm happy, I'm doing great, I'm living. Maybe you are, I hope you are. But if like most of us can't even begin to comprehend how deeply entrenched we are in the programming, And hey, welcome to 2026. Welcome to upcoming 2027 and beyond. It's only going to get worse. It's not getting better. It's only going to get worse. It's only going to get more sophisticated. But the programming is absolutely like, it's in there. It's ingrained. It's sophisticated. It's evolving. It's advanced. It's locking into your receptors, right? And all I'm simply saying is sometimes, if not invariably, often what magic mushrooms try to tell me is like invariably, many different ways. It's like we in 2026, if you live in a modern society, if you're living in this modern society and you're in my generation or in a similar generation gap or whatever, we are entrenched in programming. It's an uphill battle. Like, you got to be living a very specific existence to say not be completely manipulated by various very deep realms of programming. Now, that isn't to be like a message of like dismay or, listlessness or hopelessness, but it's the truth. It's like, shit, like we are entrenched in programs so deeply, it's so sophisticated, it's working. And we need to step outside of it. Whether that's just like feeling love and heart resonance from a lover or your romantic partner, whether that's sitting with, your family and you're like, I love these people, I love this. Or you're like having fun and you're present with bliss and, doing the things you love in this world. Amazing. But I don't know. In my experience as a full grown adult and an artist and a dude that, I love my life, I am still often overwhelmed by being like, holy shit. The programming of this world is so deeply, deeply ingrained that it sometimes does require a interjection. It requires a level of like, we need to step out to this programming. How we're going to do that? Maybe you need to sit in nature and meditate. Probably. I know I do. But, maybe you need to sit with some medicine. Maybe you need to go on a little spiritual journey where you travel somewhere or sit in a meditative retreat. I don't know. I don't really know the answer, but we need to step outside this programming. Like, we need to. And it's not going to happen by itself, unfortunately. Anyways. Weirdly enough, talking about all these things, it actually somatically and energetically implants inspiration for music. Like, that's kind of what I do unconsciously, is like, when I talk about these things or, hear and hold space for these things, whether it's talking about, the religious or spiritual, ethical ideologies or whatever we were talking about before, or whatever it is, I use that often, not even consciously. It's like it inspires the notes that I play. Not always, but more than not. It's like musically it inspires me. And I noticed that early on, where that's kind of part of the fun is like, I do this everywhere and everywhere I go. Like if I'm on a film set, if I'm with friends or on a beach or, I don't know, busking in a park or whatever, or if I'm on a live stream, unconsciously, most of what I talk about or experience, in relation to what people are talking about, I absorb it and then I direct it into music. Not always. Sometimes I'll just play guitar for the sake of playing guitar. But it's interesting to see the way, the energies of what people are saying or what I'm talking about or what's flowing through is imprinting on the music that I play. I think we can confidently say we're finally slowly getting warmed up. It's been about an hour and 40 minutes, really been about an hour, probably hour 20 that we've been trying to really focus on warming up, once we set up. But, yeah. I can slowly see, though, the pieces coming together in my mind. It's like, okay, the violin bow, the calibrated sound setup sounds a little bit more solid. But those are the breaks. This is a, what is it, Negchampa dupe, I think they call it. I don't know why exactly it's called that, but the dupe part. It's one of the 3 sets of ritual incense that I picked up yesterday at the beach, or 2 days ago at the beach, actually. I really love these. These are from Nepal. You know, this one merchant, he's like an older fellow. He travels and picks up all these amazing wares. It's the pants I'm wearing. I have some other trinkets like the sandalwood, beads, and a lot of the prayer beads and stuff he brings from Nepal and India. But these are actually from a medicine college or cottage. It's a medicine cottage. And they're some of the most extraordinary ritual incense I've ever had, ever since I first got hands on them. Very, very pure herbs and various types. Just place that right there. Beautiful space. I love your music and soul. Hey, thank you, friend. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Haishka CM. Everyone is an energy vibrating at their own frequency. Mm-hmm. 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 It's a magic dance. I mean, I'll be honest. You know, the more I've looked at it and thought about it and like really like sat with it, I'm like, man, like, you know, I'm a proponent, I'm an advocate of embracing the imperfections of people that, you know, you wouldn't necessarily regularly embrace. Like, you know, you're like, find yourself, for me, I go to raves and, you know, shows, and I don't do drugs, you know, haven't in 9 years, but, well, technically 11 years. Yeah, 11 years, like any commercial substances. But the idea is that I go to raves sober. I've been raving sober. And you meet a lot of people. Of course, they're on intoxicants, but they're still dope as fuck. And honestly, some of these people are such beautiful souls. You know, they're on different phases of their journey, of course, and some of them, they're on very different phases of their journey. But hey, like, you know, if you can embrace people in their imperfections and be like, okay, like, you know, this person may be struggling and, you know, showing up and engaging in intoxicants and, you know, different social construct or different phase of their own healing journey, but they're still a beautiful soul. That can teach you some insane powerful lessons about humans and about yourself, of course. Not to say, though, that you should always just engage in, you know, portals of chaos and intoxicants. Definitely should not do that. But, yeah. They're talking about the tiny bow being used the first time, being the first time they've seen it. Yeah. 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 It often is, yeah. That's actually fun. That's part of my intrigue, I guess. Part of the appeal of what I do here. You know, when I'm busking or whatever. I like to introduce people, you know, to this. Musicians, because of course, you know, how else? Like, I don't know many musicians. I know actually none. I've met like 2 on my YouTube streams that do incorporate the violin, you know, the miniature violin bow. But yeah, I think, you know, it's such a beautiful addition to one's playing style once you really get into it. Really just like endless fun. And plus for me, because I kind of have, like, I have ADHD essentially, but I think, you know, this is just a human thing. But maybe it's an ADHD thing, is I enjoy balancing and juggling multiple elements all at once. That's kind of how I thrive in playing the guitar. You know, I get bored very easily historically. I like to just like, you know, I like to challenge myself. I'm like, okay, we can play the guitar, we can play chords, we can play simple note sequences, but we can also do so much more. You know, it's like, you know, I like to challenge myself to be like, okay, we can balance, you know, notes of the pan flute and notes of the Picasso bow and notes of whatever. And it's just like, that's kind of how my style has taken its own form. Wow. Yeah. I can say confidently, strange observation sort of, but being fresh off of a very powerful shroom experience as of yesterday, I took it like 5 o'clock, so it like didn't really leave my system till like probably like just after midnight. It feels so weird to be on a YouTube live stream, to be on a phone. Like it just does. It's like I feel like half the time my whole sensory experience is kind of just like just very floaty in a beautiful way. Of course, it's not like dissociative. I just feel so a deep desire to be present in such a beautiful way. I guess all I'm saying is it feels unnatural. It feels unnatural to be on a phone in general. Just a phone. It's like, whoa, this is a phone. I'm watching myself. I'm very happy though and grateful to be able to be a part of this, create this experience, share these post-room thoughts and energy just in any right. I mean, of course, it'll integrate itself as we do. Yeah, everyone is energy. Yes, sir. Welcome back. Gives matter from music is vibration. Yeah. The beginning was the word. A word is sound. Hindu is sound. Creation is one. Creation is om. Yeah, yes. I speak of that often, brother. 100%. I really deeply believe, like, that's kind of an epicenter, or, yeah, a major theme of my channel is, of course, resonance, like vibrations, like resonance portals, we can say. Where is my... I have a tuning fork around here that I placed somewhere. But yeah, no, it's like, as a sound healer, vibrations, I really strongly advocate it. Like, I so deeply, feel like people should just let themselves playfully and organically connect to vibrations, just be like, remember just that core truth of like resonance is healing. Like vibrations are everywhere and everything. And the more we just like let ourselves experience them, it's really just changes our entire experience and heals us, of course. And not just like, resonant sound instruments or whatever it is, but of course, the words we say, the way we can sing or just resonate on different levels, or, play guitar or do music. It's just like, there's many extraordinary ways to tap into vibrations. It's a blissful reminder. It's a very good reminder. Let's see what time it is right now. Interesting. Very nice. 3:17. Okay. I think we're probably going to... We haven't done our daily cold plunge or our daily run yet, but we're actually not sure if we're going to run today because our ankle is kind of... Our foot ligament, I think, needs a break. I think we'll probably put it close to the stream the next probably 10 minutes. Do our cold plunge, probably go to the gym, do some strength training, and then feel into that. And probably, we'll see if we'll do a busking stream at some point. I think we've leaned into that, but we'll sort of see what we need to integrate. Yeah, it's why music affects us so. It's literally changing you. Yeah. Whether there is peace in nothingness. I'm kind of intrigued by your thoughts on what I said earlier. When there is peace in nothingness, and whether there is aloneness or togetherness. Beautiful thoughts. Wow. Yeah, I recall you sharing that very briefly, but of course we were hijacked by Sounding's, very well-founded desire to explore the boundaries of exploring his own religious ideology, beliefs on the stream. Which, hey, that's what happens sometimes. But yeah, intrigued by your thoughts on what I said earlier, whether there's peace in nothingness. Absolutely, is what I would say simply into that regard. Now, it's funny because, strangely enough, that's a conversation I actually had a few days back. Kind of what I was leaning into earlier, I was talking about, like, some of the experiences that have been happening a lot these last couple days. that have all related to spiritual themes. Strangely enough, not even like seeking it consciously. I had like a alignment of interactions that were all very spiritual in nature. You know, things that were related to people very directly, basically aligning my path with spiritual gifts. And what I mean by that is like actual things of being like, like this is a spiritual tool or a spiritual perspective or offering that somehow just was directly on my path. But yeah, bro, the day before when I was at a rave, like 3 days back, I went to a rave, gave a light show. So I was like doing this thing. It's like, doing a light show thing. And this one guy was an Indian fellow, really chill guy. He was new to the rave scene. And he was basically telling me, he's giving me this like deep philosophical discussion about how meditation practices changed his life. And how, I'm trying to remember the exact context. He basically was saying how, yes, when we become nothing and we surrender to the idea that we have nothing to do and no one to become, like he was saying, kind of like, yeah, the idea of just like embracing nothingness, like the very same kind of thing of being like, you know, he personally likes to meditate for hours a day and was telling me how, like, yeah, like some of the most exquisite, truths and parts that we as society need to understand is in entering meditation, is accepting and embracing literally nothing. Like being like, there's just embracing just being nothing and truly leaning into that. And this guy seemed very sincere about it. Like he was like really chill dude. He really went deeply, and I could see in his energy where he was like really just feeling very celebratory. He was just stoked to share that with me. And I was just like, yeah, brother, what a beautiful reminder from the universe to enter a meditative practice, to, engage in this once again and really just like honor just being nothing. Like, it's okay to just do nothing. We don't have to be anything. And meditation, I think, is one of the most exquisite ways to do that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And whether there's aloneness or togetherness in the universe. I mean, ultimately, I agree with what Osho likes to underline is, we're ultimately alone in this universe. Like, and aloneness is a sacredness. It's like a sacred aloneness. And obviously, we're all unified in a sense where we are together, but like, it's like we're alone in this world, I would say. Like, we are alone. We're born alone. We're die alone. And it's a beautiful truth. But yeah, the level of like unity and unification of being like, we as human beings are social beings that want to unify and love each other. And I don't know. That's a complex parallel. It's a complex parallel I think a lot of us are trying to package, but I think ultimately we as human beings want to love and unify. In a spiritual sense, we are all one. Like, we come from the same sort of seat of consciousness. That's a core truth. And but also, of course, being alone is being with the universe. It's being with source. It's like a core truth that a lot of us might struggle with. I know I struggle with it. And definitely, it's like, it's important to embrace aloneness, and be like, wow, this isn't a bad thing. It's a beautiful sacred realm, sacred nothingness. Yeah, all very spiritual type of things, but they're very core. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. I don't know, bro. I don't know the religious doctrinations of Christianity, nor do I desire to, but, from an outsider perspective, I enjoy things that advocate community. That's it. Like, I think if people can, I think that's beautiful. If certain religious ideologies promote community, amazing. But that doesn't change the core nature of, people just got to think freely and, align themselves with healthy values. That's all I would say to that. Magic. Very nice. One of many. Very nice. I don't know what that means, but very nice. Lyrics to guitar. Guitars go and come one. Huh. Sweet. Is nothing even possible, though? If life goes on after death, can there be nothing? I don't know, bro. I think it just requires a lot of surrender. And there's a paradoxically the mind, like basically I think what you're implying or trying to unpackage to some degree, dog, is you're trying to make sense of how to let go of the mind or see beyond the mind, which is a pretty normal human thing, I would say. Nothingness, it's kind of like, if I were to get a little more philosophical in a sense, you know, the unknown is that which is beyond the mind, right? A lot of the most beautiful things, like in nothingness, the Taoism sort of line with like no mind, or, you know, non-doing or whatever, or non-action. But like in metaphysics, we understand that there's things like that which is beyond the material world, which is the non-material, which is in the void, the unknown, that which is formless, which is unwritten, beyond the mind. So I think it's important to acknowledge that it is important to keep in mind the limitations of the mind. If nothingness exists in the unknown, the cosmic drift, the universe, the non-material, that's something that on a deep level we desire to become part of and put in perspective, I would say. A lot of us, we do deeply desire to put in perspective and honor the non-material, the unknown, the unknown waters, the universal drift, right? And that's just, I don't know, that's just the way we humans are. We have a mind that identifies with our sensory experience the material world, and we heavily emphasize that. And I think nothingness is synonymous with the unknown, with the non-material. I don't know, it's a quest we all got to figure out. It's not that complex of a philosophical truth, but it requires your ability to surrender and suspend, well, the mind and the egoic thing. And that's something we all got to figure out individualistically. We all got to learn how to understand the role of the mind and then put in perspective the limitations that it has, in respective to our journeys and however it serves us. So that's a human quest that we're all on. I don't know. But yeah, no, as voice goes to Yanto or whatever, it's interesting. Beautifully enough, when I was on streams yesterday, I've written actually a few songs. I may release these songs on my YouTube. Maybe, maybe not. Probably. But there's a couple songs that I've written, honestly, in about the last month. I've written many, many songs in truth. But these are two songs that are honestly some of the most powerful, emotionally charged, well-composed, lyrical songs that have extremely deep meaning in them. One of them is about many things. It's about like healing. It's about integrate. It's the song I actually talked about it. Because weirdly enough, the reason why I like these songs, if I'll be very clear-cut and transparent, the lyrical songs I've written as of late, and I played them out on shrooms yesterday, and I was astonished. I was like, I really like these songs. The one song is basically Queens of the Stone Age and Strokes, which I've talked about this one, combined. It's a beautiful song that is like very influenced of Queen of the Stone Age and the Strokes. Very beautiful song. Very proud of it. Very powerful song. And then the recent song I wrote is actually an amalgamation of energy of 30 Seconds to Mars, Panic at the Disco, like very old Panic at the Disco, strangely, and a bit of Paramore, more of like rhythmically, the way Paramore has like acoustic rhythmic dimensions. So strangely enough, that's kind of the domains of those three songs, or those two songs I've written from each of those influences. And there's a great chance I'm going to record and release those songs, because they are some of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard, that I've ever written, personally. But the rule of thumb is, lyrical pieces to me are extremely sacred. Like, I don't fuck around, so to speak. And in different contexts, like, I treat them very sacredly. I treat lyrical pieces, because they're like a sacred part of my soul that I put my everything into. So Yeah, it's interesting. I'm actually almost astonished to this day that I'm like, wow, I can't even believe I actually wrote these songs, that I actually wrote lyrical pieces that I'm like, you know what? I really like these songs and I need to release these to the world. And part of it is like, I like writing music. I write lots of like, different types of music of all sorts. A lot of it's just therapy for me. A lot of it, I write instrumental pieces, I improvise pieces. But lyric pieces like what the ones I just kind of underlined, they're catharsis for me. It's like therapy. And why I want to release these songs and why I feel confident that I'm going to is if you hear these songs, you'll probably begin to understand why they're so therapeutic. And I actually think part of why I want to release these songs is because I think they could really help other people. Like, truly, these are songs that have such deep, emotionally charged context. They're right from the heart and the soul. I just think other human beings at some point, when I release these songs, need to hear these songs. Like, they're good songs. Like, truthfully, like, you know, compositionally, vocally, every part of it, they're very beautiful songs. But the context behind it, the messages, the emotional context, is really important, I think, for the world to hear. So that's going to be an interesting thing to unravel. When I record and send those out, it's going to be interesting. But yeah, very interesting listening to the songs, playing them out yesterday, and be like, holy shit, I can't believe I've actually written lyrical pieces, because I have mental blocks. Honestly, I have a very ridiculously high standard for lyrical pieces. It's just, I don't know. I got a weird brain about that. For me, I found that it's not overthinking has brought me more happiness. That's beautiful, bro. As it should. I found myself for the last few days, especially when I was going through a lot, really just come to a core truth where I would just tell myself, I'm not my thoughts. I would practice meditation for bouts, and I would sit there and be like, openly expressing, like, it's okay. Everything you're thinking, everything that might flow through, you can peacefully surrender and let go, because none of these thoughts are not you. This thought, that thought, maybe it's an anxious thought, maybe it's a thought that's stressing about this, or it's a fear-based narrative. You are not your thoughts. Like, we are not our thoughts. Like, in the deepest sense, it's like whether you have a thought that's, anxiety ridden or positive or negative or whatever it is, you can just peacefully let those thoughts go. Like, thoughts are not necessarily something that's like a tangible thing. Like, maybe they're energetically and emotionally infused or somatically woven, but you are not your thoughts, right? You're the raw core of consciousness behind the thoughts. So it's an interesting practice where I found myself the last few days just be like, I am not my thoughts. Like, I'm not my thoughts. That thought or this thought, it's not who I am. And it helps me, surrender into meditation quite frequently. Because it's true. You're not your thoughts. You could think the most egregious or stress-filled or anxiety-prone thing, but the core thing, you can recognize part of practicing meditation. I think this was actually a practice that I was beginning, from talking to that one Indian fellow at the rave who was talking about, um, meditation and how it's awakened certain things, and, recognizing that we are nothing and it's okay to be nothing. It was that core thought where I was like, the essence of it. Like, the more I reinforce the idea that I'm not my thoughts, and then when I'm in meditation, I can be like, whatever thoughts arise, they're just thoughts. I can confidently let these thoughts go, no matter how and what they might evoke. But yeah, food for thought. Wow. Well, this has been an interesting experiment. I know it's been a number of days since I've streamed, so I feel like, we're fresh out of a psilocybin experience. So this feels like a very raw experimental stream, a little bit formless. A lot of little experiments, with my camera angle, my POV camera. But yeah, it's nice. It's nice to be back in a portal beyond just these live streams. Like, these live streams, they're fun, and especially when I'm, doing it to a larger audience and I'm hitting new metrics, that's great. I think I've come to realize that the more I calibrate myself, I would reconnecting, okay, disconnect, reconnect. But I've realized that, when I was grinding streams, like, if you've been here for a period, I was grinding streams for like 3-4 hours a day for like 5 months or something. Like, I was grinding streams, like freaking, I'd be like hour 2 here, 2 hours here, constantly. I was trying to push the limits of being like, okay, how much can I grow? How much can I attain, like, metrically? What can I, how much inspiration, how much feedback and perspective can I attain to be the best YouTuber I can be. Like, I was grinding streams for a while. And of course, the last like month or so, part of it's been me honoring my mental health, honoring, my physical health and my limitations with my injury. But I've of course taken a little bit of a step back from streaming. But I feel like in this next phase, maybe the next month or so, I'm very curious. Part of what I'm probably doing, because also, full disclosure, part of what I've been doing this last month and a bit, as I've intentionally been focusing all my energy on trying to develop my performance act as a busker, like really focus that. Be like, okay, live streams are great. I love doing live streams, but I want to make long format content and stream fluently as a performer. Like, I want to go out and busk for hours and hours a day, like, while still honoring myself by nurturing my body, my energy. But I've been focusing being a performance artist. And fortunately, it's been working. I've made breakthroughs left, right, and center as a busker, as a performer. I've had weeks where I've literally killed it, like performance-wise, sound-wise, making money, doing this and that. I've made YouTube videos about it. Like, it's been a very forward, a forward charge in that regard. But of course, part of my mission is like, I want to make this YouTube experience continuously something that is expansive. I want to be in a place where I'm like, all right, so basically what I'm saying is I want to become so fluent at busking, at performing, recording music, and capture all this on my live stream. Like, just like really just charge into this world of doing this. But of course, it takes time. It takes calibration. It takes preparation. It takes intention. It takes alignment. So, a part of my quest as of late has been focusing all my energy. Like, I want to release high quality, long format YouTube content and do it from creating busking and doing live busking streams with high quality captures and, just rock out and have that be my, my legacy, so to speak, on YouTube alongside streaming. So, expect that in the future. And weirdly enough, it's like this has been my vision from the start. If you look at my little mission statement when I started this channel, 11 months ago, I literally was like predicating this. I was like, I'm going to eventually, I didn't actually know this was going to happen. I'll be honest. I didn't have full confidence that I would ever get to this point. Truthfully, like, that's the absolute truth. Is like, I had no confidence 11 months ago that I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to, get to the subscriber base and, be confident in competent live streams that I can busk and live stream. I didn't think I'd ever get there. I mean, I had an idea that I was like, okay, I'll eventually get there. But to get to that point where I was like, okay, I'm going to really lean into learning to perform and busk and be confident enough to, really just be in that place. It feels surreal. Like, it feels surreal now. I'm like, wow, like 11 months ago, I was not even remotely in the same place, YouTube-wise, musically, performance-wise. So anyways, all I'm simply saying is the vision has crystallized in the sense where, I'm trying to take lots of time to honor myself, my health, recalibrate. But moving forward, I basically just want to fluently live stream, busk, create really high quality YouTube content, and repeat. Like, just do that, blow up my YouTube, and live that sort of thing. And I'm fortunate, I'm very blessed, I feel, to be on that path. But, it's obviously not without inherent challenges. Like, it really challenges me to the core of my being. Like, I have to really, like, show up, in full alignment for those things to work. But, yeah. Titanic music. Absolutely, what's awakening awareness through thoughts are not owned. Yeah. The true you is the observer. That is so true, man. That is such, very much the truth. Awakening awareness can be everywhere, and every comer as it goes in cause. As it goes, cause and effect. Yeah. With that, I mean, I absolutely agree with that, brother. If there's something that I've learned about busking and putting myself in these, like, universal portals where I'm just, like, out there in the universe, random strangers, and just hitting and just playing music, like, creating these interactions, creating these, like, universal interactions, it's, there's very little coincidences, and our presence is a blessing to each other, whether you're conscious of it or not. And I think it's becoming, like, self-aware, like stepping outside of your own, like, egoic model of, like, you thinking that, but You perceive yourself as one way and being received by another to awaken awareness. Like being like, oh, I play a guitar chord, and maybe you're like, oh, I played the guitar chord a billion times, and it's not very significant. But then another person hears and they're like, that's the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. And they like sincerely mean that and meet you with that. It's like, it's very powerful to see how when we step outside of our own perspective and we just realize that we're not our thoughts, we're not our egoic, fear based narratives, and we experience that, we see that, we plunge into the universal portals where we have that confirmed in front of our eyes. And if we're fortunate to do it in, say, something like performance art or music or acting or whatever it is your choice of modality, you get that confirmation and that reflection over and over and over again to a point where you're just like, you realize just how powerful these reflections of other people are. And basically it makes you realize humans are beautiful. Like, people are beautiful mirrors and reflections to us. And it's so beautiful when we show up and let ourselves receive that reflection of other human beings. Well, hey, it's good to see you, Tibet. Tibet Lightning Bird Shaman. Good to see you, dog. I think we right quick are going to close up here. So we've been kind of situating ourselves for the last 2 hours and 17 minutes. Yeah, especially Busking. If there's any hint of trepidation, we're not doing as a gift to others, it translates immediately. That's so true, Dinosaur. That's very insightful and honestly beautiful that you sit with that, because I agree so much, brother. It's like, I'll be honest, I mean, I meet so many different buskers. Some are my good friends, and they do so for so many different reasons. Often it's a similar resonant, reason as myself, but I see so many buskers, and busking can exist in many different parallels. But when you do it with like almost a sacred reverence, like an intention that you're present, you're doing it out of joy, out of love, out of blessing the people around you. And I'm fortunate that, I've developed a lot of intention within what I do. Like, I'm a sound healer. I do like sound healing types of musical endeavors. And people, when they see it, they're like often like, it reads clear like a book. Like, they're like, oh, this guy is like, he's not just trying to play guitar. I mean, he is, but it's like, he's also trying to evoke something. He's trying to offer maybe like a meditative space or a resonance pattern. And that is beautiful. And it blows my mind as much as I have to unpackage and face so much overwhelm, over the course of a while, so much fear, so much anxiety of like, just getting on my own head to show up in busking. I have since I ever started busking, like a year and a half ago. But now that I'm in a stance where I feel a lot more confident in my busking act, and I feel a lot more confident to be received by people, it makes me realize over and over again that, yeah, like your intentionality, it's the same thing with YouTube. It's actually a very similar thing with YouTube. It's like, if you treat it with a sacred level of intention, it is received as such. And if you do not treat it with that level of intention, it is received as such. And personally, I don't desire to do anything but that. Whether I'm doing YouTube or busking or just playing guitar or whatever I do, if it's not in alignment in such a way, I don't do it. Like, I don't desire to do it. I don't want to force the process. And that's also partly why I'm so grateful for like what's been unraveling in this busking portal and world, is like the level of alignment is it's very true. Like, it's like when I'm showing up, I'm like, wow, I'm finally in this place where I can confidently be received, where I feel a lot more like open, and I'm seeing people, very sincerely meet me as I am doing this. It's taken me so long to get there. It's taken me a lot of patience, a lot of calibration, a lot of preparation, a lot of intention, a lot of patience to be like, here we are. But it's so beautiful to be there. And I still got a long way to go. Like, let's be real here. I'm still got a long way to go. But it's pretty cool. I wonder if my laptop, how low of a battery is it here? But anyways, with that, I think we're going to put a close to the stream right quick. This has been a very free-form experimental stream, as we've underlined, but I'm really happy to show up. Okay, it's like 50%. I think we got to go home, charge all our equipment, do a cold plunge, do some training, continue to honor and integrate the psilocybin journey, health body, That's what's needed to fix hand in hand with immortal soul and consciousness and immortal body. That is the truth, dog. Health is everything. Like if you, are dishonoring your health in various rights, it's so clear cut. It's like it is the key. It's the key to all the doors. Take that as you will. But I've had some odd experiences, busking when I was not in my right mind. Interesting. Yeah, bro. I swear. I mean, we've all been there. We've all been there. Absolutely. Like it's like truly. Even for me, I have like such an overwhelming intuitive feeling. If I know that I'm busking, I'm like, okay, technically I could busk. Technically I could put myself out there. And of course, when I was new to busking, I'll be honest, almost all the experiences were like that. Where I'd be like overwhelmed with anxiety. Like to the moment of setting up, the moment that I was like, oh, I'm going in busking mode. Everyone's going to be like thinking, oh, here's a guy putting down his hat, starting to busk. I would get so much anxiety that I'd either, get overwhelmed. Rarely would I leave, but I would get very overwhelmed. Or just kind of lean into that. And, of course, every time, sometimes I would busk, I would make very little money, and I'd just be like, okay, well, at least I faced that fear. But that was like, several months ago. Fortunately, now it's like I have a very different mentality for very good reasons. I think I've developed my performance act. I've developed my intention. I've had a lot of positive interactions of people literally like giving me such beautiful, sincere compliments. I've made record-breaking amounts of, funds or money from tips of this and that. Where I'm like, okay, like clearly I'm good at this, and I didn't know that. Even when I was like told myself, I'm good. I know I can do this. I never had that real-world exposure, and no matter how much I tried to get out of that mindset, and you'd be like, oh, I don't care about the money. It's about this and that. When I was anxiety prone and my nervous system was just like so anxious, it's very difficult to shed that. So all I can say is anyone that ever puts himself in any busking parallel and faces that fear and puts himself out there, you have my utmost respect. Like sincerely, you have so much respect for me. And I feel that always. Like when I see people who are just like novice, it could be a person playing a flute on a corner or doing any sort of busking thing, I immediately have so much respect for them because I know how much fear it takes to put yourself out there and do that. And it's almost always when I see other buskers, I tip them, I give them a smile, I nod to them. Sometimes I sit there and talk with them. But it's a lot. Like 100%. And to be on the other side of it, I'm like, wow, I don't really hold that much fear anymore. I'm very confident more so in my busking act. It's like insane because for so many months, I was like fear and anxiety stricken, man. Where I could not shake that level of like overwhelm and fear. And of course, sometimes, it can appear. And that's where I kind of look at it. I'm like, you know what? Am I honoring my body? Am I honoring my journey musically? Am I priming my sound setup? Am I calibrating my audio? Am I nourishing my body and my spirit? Really leaning into being like, busking is not just about playing the music. It's about aligning yourself with that which aligns with the performance. And that takes time. It takes a deep listening, I would say. And of course, a lot of fear facing. Whoa. It's a lot. Yeah. And again, that's why I'm like astonished. To this day, I look at the like busking videos that I posted that were like, last week, and I'm like, man, I got like, in those videos, I had like zero fear. I'm like fully, very, very little, very slim maybe amounts of self-consciousness of being like, man, I'm feeling like at moments I'd be like, aware I'm busking. But so much of it was like, I felt like I was very much in the moment, very much in a flow state. Enough to put it into a video, enough to put it out there on my YouTube. So like that feels like a massive win. It's super dope. Because honestly, as a dude that was like freaking anxiety and fear stricken for like several months, literally even after like a year of preparation and many years of preparing myself musically, busking, it takes a lot. And I respect anybody that's able to overcome that fear, sit with that fear. And we're not all meant to be performance artists on the street. Like, let's be real here. We all have different roles and phases. And hell, maybe you want to do something that's not guitar or music, and you want to busk in that way, who knows? Like, there's many different ways. But it's really cool. It's a very spiritual thing, in truth. Yeah. I appreciate you sharing your perspective, though, Dinosaur. That's super dope. Heavily busy building, restoring my house. Facts. That's fair. Well, in all truth, brother, I've been taking a hard stop, like a full stop, hard reset. That's the word. The last I think I haven't streamed like 4 or 5 days or something, which is probably the longest I haven't streamed in like a while. Maybe exceptions of being sick every once in a while, but it's been a very intense month for myself. In truth, I've been processing a lot of complex emotions and spiritually taking a lot of time to reflect, and of course with my business and freaking various things. It's been an intense month, and yeah, it's been an important time to step away. So I don't think you've missed a whole lot. You've missed some, of course, but yeah, like, I've been taking it as a request from my higher self to just like take a step back, and it's fortunately been very received. It's been very valid. My frequency short last. Interesting. My frequency short. Yeah, that was a little while back. Yeah. Yeah, it's like, oh, my laptop keeps telling me. I think that's a sign. My laptop, it needs to get needs to get charged. I'm not exactly sure how it operates in mysterious ways. But yeah, bro, I'm really happy and have been really happy with the music that I've been putting out. And as I kind of underlined like 5-10 minutes ago, I've written some insanely good vocal pieces that strangely enough, they're very emotional. They're very much like similar to the music that I wrote when I first started writing music, like 10 years ago or something. Like, I've kind of returned to a style of music lately, the last like month or so, that's been all pure catharsis. Like, I'm not writing, like, the music that I write, like vocally, or that is like verbal vocal pieces, are not anything but like raw, very intense emotions in various like different styles. Like, again, one of the songs is like a Queen of the Stone Age / The Strokes, very like influenced, and then the other is like, it's like a bridging worlds of 30 Seconds to Mars with a little bit of Panic! At the Disco, like old school, like really good Panic! At the Disco when they had Ryan, in their band, and also like a little bit of Paramore in there, which is kind of crazy. I actually never would expect to write music in that style, even though I love all those bands and genres, but it's actually really good. It's very beautiful. So I think that's part of this vision of recently, is just like leaning back into trying to create music that is cathartic and emotionally flowing for me. And alongside, I love making music that I've just make in the fly, that just flows like water, instrumental pieces or sound journeys and vibrational journeys. But music will always be therapy for me. It'll always be like catharsis for me. Like, genuinely, first and foremost, music is like the deepest catharsis. And it seems that obviously what I'm simply saying is a lot of the way I create music is going to always be a sacred catharsis. And maybe I'll release it on my channel, maybe not, probably. But it's interesting how the allotment of music that I write often is not something that I desire to perform or put on streams, because it's catharsis for me. There's a lot that I do on these streams that I'm like happy and confident, proud, like, wow, I can't believe I'm, really in this flow state and I'm putting it out there. But it's intriguing that the mass majority of what I do that's like sacred to me, it's just gonna be there for that. It's sacred catharsis. It may one day be released as studio recorded music, probably, but it's like often music I write, and it's strange because this is kind of the way music's always been. It's like, I don't make music to put it out there. Like, I just do it because it's catharsis. If it becomes refined, studio recorded, and I put it out there, magic, because people need that catharsis too. But it's like the greater essence of how I operate is just creating music in a sacred context that is not going to be on streams. It's not going to be released to the public, and that's kind of the point. Some does, of course, but yeah. Anyways, I'm kind of just rambling here, as I do. Great to see you, brother. Keep doing what you're doing. And it was a difficult road. Different road, yes. Yeah, it's a unique road, brother. I'm like, man, all I can say is like sort of what I was underlining before is, I've been processing a lot of complex emotions and grief, and it's been a challenging couple weeks. Really, it's been insanely challenging. But the one light in my life has been like, wow, I can do this busking thing. Like I can go out and freaking perform for strangers and play music and make money and do live streams if I'm feeling so inclined. And that has been like a light in my life, like unlike any other. I'm like, holy shit, like this, even if everything in my life is like burning, to the floor, to the ground, the fact that I can like still just make music and still just perform and intuitively put out, good music. And I'm like, this is insane. Like, it's like I couldn't even articulate how much I've been like processing and, some elements struggling. But the fact that I'm like still like, you know what, there's still lights in my life that keep me connected. That rocks. Like, that's great. It keeps me rooted. It makes me want to believe in something. But anyways, I don't know. I feel like my post-shroom mentality is very unfiltered. I'm very much just like very raw and unfiltered today. But that's, as I kind of underlined, I don't think you were here earlier when I was talking. I had a very intense but very cathartic, very powerful shroom, psilocybin experience yesterday. One of the most powerful I've had in a long time. And I actually haven't sat with any psychedelic medicine. I did a bit of LSD, a couple weeks back. But I haven't sat with shrooms in probably like a month or two. And it kind of made me realize a lot of things, like sitting with this medicine. So yeah, still integrating that. But all I can say is I'm infinitely grateful. Yeah. Magic. Well, with that, I want to say thank you so much for being here. And also, on a different note, we got a Ko-Fi card. Yeah, we got a Ko-Fi card. It's mainly for when we're busking, but it's cool. We printed out this Ko-Fi card. It's just so convenient. I may bring it out streams or to have it just, looming in the back, so I never have to talk about Ko-Fi, but be like, yo, this is the thing. And it's mainly for busking when people are walking by. I don't know if people ever use it, but I love it. But anyways, thank you so much for being here. And yeah, I hope you guys have a blessed existence. Honor yourself, honor each other. Whoa, there's a squirrel. Bro, there's a squirrel. Dude. We've been blessed by a squirrel. That's so great. I don't know. Wow. Thank you, brother. Thank you, Tibet. I appreciate that, dog. Thank you for your time, brother. And thank you guys for, taking a moment to chime into this reality and check out this portal, There's no bears here, dog. Yeah, I have to zoom in. I have to really zoom in. Oh, he's kind of out of the view now. He's out of the camera. He was basically right over here. Oh, damn. My phone's 20%. Whoa. That is a... Huh. It's a spider. I don't think he's going to make a second appearance, but... Anyways, thank you so much for being here, and I hope you guys have a good day, or a good night, and a good life, as Wim Hof would say. Yeah, thank you so much for being here. Yeah, squirrels. I think after this stream ends, I'm just going to go hang out with the squirrel. I swear, this is in character with, magic mushrooms. But as I was on magic mushrooms yesterday, I swear all I wanted to do was hang out with birds and nature. Like squirrels, birds. I swear it was like for hours and hours and hours. All I wanted to do was just like play pan flute and just stare at birds. And holy shit, what a good day. Like what a good allotment of hours. Like absolutely like, yeah. Wow. Yeah, run wild. Bless. Thank you, brother. Thank you, Psych, for being here. Bless. All right. Have a great day. Ashe. And all the love, all the power. Again, as Wim Hof would say,